Hello and welcome to Advent of Code, day 13. Day 13 for me, not for you, but I'm catching up. So hopefully by the time we actually make it to Christmas, I will be fully caught up at that point. Just so you know, for future videos, we are going to be doing these in two parts. I really liked how it worked on day 11, with that being split into two parts, and some of these parts are going to get more and more complex as we continue along. So we're going to be splitting them up just into two different pieces. I'll record two different videos. They should be roughly 15 minutes a piece, rather than one video that ends up being 30 minutes, or even potentially longer, depending on which day we're actually going through. So today we're going to be focusing on shuttle search. So we've got a ferry that we can get on. We have a list of IDs that indicate how often each bus leaves for the airport. We have a bus schedule that's defined based on a timestamp that measures the number of minutes since some fixed reference point in the past. So at timestamp 0, every bus simultaneously departs from the seaport. So timestamp 0. And then they arrive back at the seaport every 11 minutes or 0 minutes, 11, 22, 33, right? So it's now going to be a multiple of that number. Next, we have our puzzle input, which will consist of two lines. We have the time, the earliest time that we could depart on a bus from the seaport, and we've got the entries. Airport, to the nearest airport. I said seaport, didn't I? We got a ferry. Okay. So we've got the earliest bus that we can take to the airport is what we're attempting to compute. So we've got 9:39, and we've got multiples of 7, 13, 59, 31, and 19. So essentially we're going to try and find, okay, what's the lowest multiple of all of these numbers that is greater than 939. So yeah, each of them will end up being multiplied by well, we'll go into the actual method, but basically we need to compute which of those indices is the earliest that we can go. So the earliest bus you could take is bus ID 59. It doesn't depart until timestamp 9:44, so you would need to wait 944 minus 935, which is 5 minutes before it departs. Multiplying the bus ID by the number of minutes you'd need to wait gives 295. So we need to wait 5 minutes, and we're leaving on bus 59. 59 times 5 is 295. Okay, so that's the general concept there. So let's dive into the actual coding of this, because this is kind of interesting. Oh, let's copy our demo input as well. We need to copy this into our input.txt file. Okay, so there's our input. We've got two lines of input. One is the earliest time that we could start, that we could leave on, and then we have our set of buses and inputs for each of those buses. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is let's actually just get our start, and our buses are going to be data.split, or actually data, it's actually just going to be data because it's the first and the end. So we've got start and we've got buses. We'll just pass those in here. And we've got start and we have buses. Okay. So we're going to say that we have a certain number of buses that we're going to have, right? We're going to keep track of all of them as part of like a list, and the latest times that they have available. So what we'll do here is we'll create a mapping that is going to be 0 times the max number of buses, the max bus, the largest number bus, plus 1 there. So we will end up with, in this particular example, we will end up with 59 total buses. Okay. Let's also say that buses equals x for x in buses if x does not equal x, okay? Because we don't want the x's. Buses dot split, and we'll say that now we end up with integers. Okay, so now we've got our buses, and we've gotten rid of those pesky x's in the actual input. Okay, so now we've got a certain number of buses. We've got, let's print out our mapping, print mapping here, and we'll just run this really quickly. Okay. Invalid literal with for int base 10 x for x in buses dot split on the comma, of course. All right, there we go. So we have lots of zeros essentially here. Okay, next, now that we've got our mapping, let's go in and we're going to say for bus in buses, we're going to have an x equals 0. So we're essentially going to keep track of the number of iterations that we go through. And we will say while true, if x is greater than or equal to timestamp, then mapping bus equals x minus timestamp. Okay, and we'll break here. Oh, better. That's start, not timestamp. There we go, start. And we're going to say x plus equals bus. So we're iterating through each of our buses, and our x is going to give us an ultimate mapping, and we're going to wait until x is greater than or equal to the start time, and then each bus will essentially have, here's the amount of time that's left, here's the remainder, the amount of time that you have to wait for that bus to leave. And then we can return the minimum, of x for x in mapping dot values. And we need to multiply that by the bus value, right? So we need to multiply that by, oh, this is not actually a mapping. Correct, that is not actually a mapping. Assuming does not equal 0, right? Because we've got a bunch of zeros in here, and we actually want to make sure that we're not looking at anything that has a 0 start time. We know that it won't have a 0 start time. Okay, so now we're going to multiply that by mapping dot index of this value. Right? So essentially what we're doing is we want to take the bus's index, which is what this mapping is, bus indices, let me rename it, bus indices. And for each of the values in bus indices, assuming that it's not 0, we want to get the minimum value, and we're multiplying that by the bus index that has that minimum value. So this is the bus ID, and this is the number of minutes that you have to wait. So theoretically, if we did this correctly, type error start. Oh, of course, because this should be an integer. There we go, 295, okay? So 295 is the result that we got, and that is in fact the correct answer. So let's grab the puzzle input here. There it is, okay, and we'll input that there. Oh man, there's a lot of those. Okay, lots of X's. That's probably going to have some impact on the next step. 52, 57. Let's input that in here and see what we get back. There we go. Okay, so that was day 13, part 1. We're going to continue on to part 2 in the next video. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed it, make sure that you give it a like, subscribe to the channel as well, and let me know what you thought down in the comments below the video if you have any questions, comments, concerns, accusations. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video, day 13, part 2.